Are we all here?
Sorry, Deb.
That's okay.
I had to get the dogs in.
Yeah, well, I had to. My brother came in and my dog went nuts.
We're good to go.
Are all, Brandon's not going to be here, so are all of us here that's left? Okay. Okay, I'm going to call to order the Lawrence County Developmental Disability Board meeting on May, this says May 13th. Is today the 11th?
Sorry.
Today's
It's 11. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. On May the 11th at 6:04 p.m.
Mike Gore.
You're muted, Mike.
Dang it. Here.
Tanner Huff.
Here.
Deborah Jones.
Here.
Sarah Marks.
Here.
Lou Piles.
Here.
Brandon Smith. Steve Thompson.
Here.
Okay, is the agenda, is there any changes to the agenda, Julie?
Nope. We're good.
Okay. Any public comments, Larry?
There or not.
And everyone got their minutes, their packet for this meeting?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, the April meeting minutes, are there any questions about them or any changes that need to be made? Or amendments or whatever? If not, is there a motion to accept the minutes?
A motion to accept.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Gore.
Yes.
Mr. Huff.
Yes.
Miss Jones.
Yes.
Miss Marks.
Yes.
Miss Piles.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Okay, committee reports. Steve, Finance Committee.
I think there was a part in the package there with minutes on the last meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a meeting on April 25th, and we discussed the waiting list, the waiver waiting list, and the need for me to meet with the SSA director and her staff to review each person on the list and come up with a monetary projection of what the costs will be associated with the waiting list. And we are currently working on that, and I should have something by the June meeting on that.
Okay.
And there are minutes in the packet that you will need to approve.
Okay. Is there any questions about the finance meeting minutes, committee meeting minutes? Is there a motion to accept the April Finance Committee meeting?
Make the motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Gore,
Yes.
Mr. Huff,
Yes.
Ms. Jones,
Yes.
Mrs. Marks,
Yes.
Mrs. Piles,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Okay, and then the Ethics Committee report. Sarah?
Yes, we met and reviewed 2 contracts for Elite Rehabilitation and Fitness for PTOT services, and Joelle and Schaefer Mays LLC for speech therapy services, and identified no conflicts of interest and approved the agreements to go to the main board.
Okay, is there a slot? Do we need to?
We'll just approve those at the bottom when we get to new business.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. All right. Finance and expenses, Amy.
Yes, ma'am. General fund expenses exceed revenues by $576,716.99, which is 39.01% of budgeted revenues through April. That also includes $461,732.81 of calendar year 17-18 cost report settlement, which we received on April the 12th. Expenses are currently slightly above projections. We told you last month, but I just wanted to remind you that we paid DODD $10,998.49 for direct care services for the month of March on April 16th. And we currently paid a total of $13,482.02. That's just for one individual. We were just billed this week for the other individual. So I'll have those totals for you on next month's report, and I'll show them to you separated so that you can see how each individual is tracking cost wise. And if you'd like to see it differently, please just let me know. But that is for the last week of February, what you're looking at now, the last week of February and the month of March. Also, from the human resource front, Arlie Lynn resigned on April 26th. And right now we're just monitoring things. We're not filling that position right now, and we're just going to monitor things and see how things progress as to whether we need to fill the position in the future. Are there any questions that I might answer?
Nope, not for me, Amy.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the April finance minutes?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Gore,
Yes.
Mr. Huff,
Yes.
Ms. Jones,
Yes.
Ms. Marks,
Yes.
Ms. Piles,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Okay, agenda report.
Yes, so I did resubmit a written report with the packet, and as you see at the very bottom, state updates, I said that I would give you more information at the meeting. And so what's going on is we are in the state budgeting process for the biennium budget, and the provider community has been lobbying very hard for a rate increase. So that would mean, and how does that impact us? It impacts us through our waiver match, because we're paying close to 40%. for all of the services that people receive through their providers, through the waiver programs. So there has been a lot of lobbying going on. OACB has provided testimony in support of the rate increase, because the higher the rate, the more that these direct care staff are going to make. And it's what we're finding is we've been in a provider shortage crisis for a while now, but it's even worse now because you can just make so much more at other places for a much easier job. So they're trying to get the rates up, and it had been several years since there was any rate increase. As you may recall, there was a rate increase last year, and then in January of this year that the county board system ended up picking up because the state didn't, because of the pandemic and so forth. But they're trying to get the state legislature to include some state funding to increase the rates. And it's not looking like that's going to happen. It's still in a committee, but it's not looking good. So like that's actually going to happen. So the county boards now are coming to the table to try to figure out, what to do to contribute to some kind of rate increase. And there is a proposal on the table where county boards would come together, and the smaller counties would actually pick up a very small portion, the way they have it calculated, of any increase. But across the board, the superintendents and the counties just feel like, we're going to have to do what we have to do to try to keep these rates moving ahead. Money's not everything, because even if you have money, you have to have good, competent people that don't feel like they can just go work somewhere else and make more money at an easier job. But at the same time, we just don't want to keep falling behind on these rates. And so, like I said, it's not looking good for the state for it to be actually included into the budget. So, people may be wondering, why we're responsible, but at the end of the day, we're not the direct employer of these providers, but we fund these providers. We fund the services. So there is a High Association of County Boards is working with all the superintendents across the state to come up with some kind of solution that would allow all of us to kick in some funds, primarily from the larger counties, to give some kind, contribute, hopefully with the cooperation and partnership of DODD, the department, some kind of rate increase this year or even next year. It may not be possible to get it this year, but we could definitely do it by January of next year. But, when you talk about increases, what we're hearing, is that like staff, want a 2%, 3% increase. These providers want increases too. And they went like 13 years with no increase until they got one a couple years ago. So we're the funder of the system. We are responsible for funding the system. So, we're not the only party, that we're a large percentage. So I just want to just kind of keep everyone up to date on where we are. That waiver line item in our budget is definitely going to go up. Amy and I are still working on some projections on that, but Jamie and I and her staff did meet. We went over everyone on our current needs waiting list, and what kind of waiver they would need, what services they were in need of, and we're working on a projection for that cost. But it's very costly. So we're going to have a lot of discussion about how we're going to proceed with giving waivers, especially in light, now we have 2 people at GDC, which is going to increase our costs, to over $20,000 a month for now. So, but again, I want to say that's not apples to apples necessarily, because when someone is at GDC, we're not paying the waiver match that we would be paying. So it may cost, let's say, $11,000 a month, but the actual net increase would be less than that, if that makes any sense. And how much less would depend on how many services that they were receiving, how expensive their services were before they went into GDC. But I can tell you it's still more expensive. I'm going to guess, like on one of them, they had like 2-to-1 staffing. I'm going to say out of that 11,000, our net increase, Amy, would be about 4,000 to 5,000 maybe.
Yes.
So anyway, I just wanted to let everyone know. I'm going to keep talking about this because it's hard for people to really wrap their heads around what waiver services are. But if someone lives out in the community and they live in an apartment and they have providers, then we the funding comes primarily from us for their services. Well, when I say primarily, other than the federal contribution, obviously the federal Medicaid program kicks in about 60%. We're at 40%. That we certainly contribute more than the department or any state agency. So I just wanted to make everyone aware of that. And then we did conclude the hearings today in our litigation, and it will take probably a couple months, 6 to 8 weeks, before we will receive any kind of decision. So I want to let you know that, because it's a process. The court notes have to be transcribed, then that's going to take a while. Then they have to be sent back to the attorneys, and then the attorneys they're doing written briefs, and they have to submit those. And then, so we're looking at 6 to 8 weeks right now. So I just want to let everyone know that. And it went as well as it could go. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is I wanted just to throw out there, maybe starting in-person meetings possibly in August with an option. If somebody couldn't come or didn't feel comfortable attending virtually, I need to look into that and see where we're at with the temporary law change that we're allowed to do virtual meetings. I need to do that first because I know that's going to be expiring. I need to know where we're headed with that. But is there any interest, if that is possible, at the August meeting, starting that, or would you all prefer to continue as we are? I just wanted to throw that
I
out.
prefer to meet in person, Julie.
I'd rather
That's
meet in
just
person.
me. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Agree.
me as well.
Okay,
I
go ahead.
I would like to meet in person too, but a lot of mine depends on how well she's walking. She is allowed
Okay.
to wait on her leg, but on Tuesday nights, I'm always with her.
Mhm.
And we're both fully vaccinated. It just depends on if I can get her into the car.
Well, we have, I think we should start having our meetings at the school, in the cafeteria. It's a nice area,
Mhm.
and there's plenty of room for distancing,
Right.
where there would not be in boardroom here.
Right.
But I know the so-called board that I'm on, we're doing this starting in August.
Okay.
And it got me thinking as we were talking about it, that might be a good time, you know, if you're all okay with that, that we could start that process. But I need to look and see, like, maybe I need to make sure that people can participate virtually if they don't feel comfortable. You know, can we do a hybrid? I need to, because that's what we had talked about on the other board I'm on. You know, we're going to do a hybrid. If you don't feel comfortable coming or don't, you know, you can still participate, but that's not under the same restrictions that we are as a public body. So anyway, I just wanted to see if there was any interest in that. Okay. Well, I will let you all know at the next meeting what I find out. And, you know, good news on the COVID front, there's not been any new cases with our individuals since the last week of January.
That's great.
So
That's real good.
yeah, and we're slowing down, you know, with our staff. You know, there for a while, it was like every time you turned around, there was a staff member. That's slowed down. So the numbers are definitely coming down in our world. So that's good.
That's great.
I don't think there's been any at the school, has there, Kendra? So
That's good.
yeah. So
Very good.
that's all I have. If there's
Okay.
any questions, please feel free to ask.
Does anyone have any questions for Julie? Julie, do we have any old business?
No.
Right? New business?
Yes. A lot of new business. So, we have been looking at our personnel policies very closely. I've been looking at them with David Kessler, because before we head into our collective bargaining negotiations, he wanted to look at all of our personnel policies and see, you know, how they lined up with the current contract language. And so there were some things that he thought that he brought up to me and made some recommendations. And the first policy that I want to look at is our sick leave policy, 1405. And the thing that I wanted to talk to the board about, and if you want, we don't necessarily, if you want to wait to take any action, you can wait until the June meeting, because the union contract doesn't go into effect until 7/1. So we're not proposing that this policy be changed before. It just needs to be changed if we're going to change it before 7/1. So if you want to take a month to think about it, I don't want to make you feel pressured. But what I am recommending is that we discontinue the sick leave incentive that we have included in this policy.
To discontinue it?
Discontinue it, yes. So if you look at the second page where we have the strike through, right now, staff can earn $150 a quarter through payroll for not taking any sick time. Okay. So that we ran a total on that, and the average a year that we're spending is what, 8,000 to 10,000, Amy? So, you know, it's not breaking the bank, but it's still $8,000 to $10,000 that we need.
We don't need to spend.
So, you know, it's $600 a year basically, for anyone that gets it every quarter. But here's some main reasons why that we're not recommending it anymore. One is, it encourages people to come to work sick. And with COVID and everything else, we don't want people to come to work. They get sick time for when they're sick. The purpose behind this was to cut back on sub cost, like mainly for our programs when people were all sick. But in the world that we're in today, it just doesn't seem wise to incentivize people to never take sick leave. The other thing is that most of our workforce now is remote. So they would have like an advantage for this because, you might be sick technically. If you had to come in, you couldn't come in, but you could work at home, but you would still be collecting that sick leave incentive.
Yeah.
So to me, it unfairly, it more benefits one part of the workforce than it does the other. I just don't think that I think it's used in a way, that, it encourages people. Well, I don't want to take off. And that's great that people, that don't want to take off. But what we found is that people who take off a lot, they're going to always take off a lot. That's just the way it's going to be. They're going to take off a lot. And the people who don't take off, they don't. I mean, but we're paying out, that much money. And again, we don't want somebody coming to work when they have a fever because, they don't want to miss out on a payment. Or we don't want people, to be at home. Like I had a staff who had COVID, but because they were able to work from home. Now let's put aside the COVID sick leave. Let's just act like that didn't exist. They were able to work the whole time without taking any sick leave. Okay. So it just doesn't seem right that the program staff who have to come in, if they have a fever or whatever, they're not allowed to come. They're not going to benefit from a sick leave incentive policy. So I just throw this out there. And like I said, we don't have to make any decisions now. You can wait, until next month. But if we are going to make any changes for the whole program, it'll have to be done before the new union contract is put in place. So I just wanted to open it up to discussion. I know this is a big decision, but I just wanted to go ahead and open it up
Gosh.
to discussion.
I say we discontinue it tonight.
Yes.
Oh, there's no need to wait on this, Julie.
Kill it.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, I think it does encourage people to come even if they're sick, and that's never a great thing. And also I agree with you completely that if people are going to take off, they're going to take off. And they utilize their sick leave, utilize the sick leave. So I would agree with you 100% that it's not anything that we should wait on.
No.
That doesn't mean you can't reward them in some other way with a certificate or something that's not monetary.
Yes. Yes. And we're I have another policy on staff recognition, Mike.
I saw that.
You're right. Yeah, it does not, I'm telling you, it does not alter attendance, really. People that have problems who use a lot of sick time are always going to, that's not going to stop it. That's not what we've seen.
Julie, I have a question. Is there anything else in the sick leave policy, 14.05, that has changed other than the incentive?
No.
Okay,
That's the only thing I am recommending that we take
rid of.
out. And we could make it effective 7/1 of of 7/1 of 21.
are we going to vote on this one now?
From what I'm hearing, everyone wants to go
Yeah.
ahead and vote.
Okay, so we want a motion to approve the sick leave 1405 policy effective 7/1/21.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Thank you, ladies.
Mr. Gore,
Yes.
Mr. Huff,
Yes.
Ms. Jones,
Yes.
Mrs. Marks,
Yes.
Ms. Piles,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Okay.
So now we have 1411, which is civil leave. And put this in a nutshell here, the way the policy was written before, which you can see, I'm just going to give a brief overview. You could use board time for anything you had to be, that you were called for, that you were subpoenaed for, any type. So if I'm getting divorced or whatever, I could get board time for that. And that's not usual. That's very unusual. And the other thing that was very unusual in this policy was that if you had jury duty, which of course you get paid if you're on jury duty, or any board business, but you had to turn over your check from jury duty to the board. So when Dave looked at this, his recommendation was to say, if it's a personal reason, you don't get paid from the board. And if you're on jury duty, you keep your check, kind of just switching them. So, because really, if it's a personal reason, they really shouldn't be getting paid for that. If they're having a landlord issue, or like I said, some kind of domestic court issue. So he added in, employees summoned to jury duty shall receive full regular pay from the board. And then the request for jury, okay, that's jury duty. Employees are not provided paid civil leave when appearing in court for criminal or civil cases when the case is heard in conjunction with the employee's personal matters, such as traffic court, domestic relations proceedings, custody, and so forth. But that they can keep their funds. So as you can see here in A, he added that they would be on their own time when they use something for personal matters. They can, of course, they can use their vacation leave or whatever.
I have just lost out on so much things, Julie, being a business owner.
Yeah.
Gosh. Do we need to vote on this one too? Discontinue the old
No,
wage?
you would be voting to revise it.
Okay.
See, if you look on the page, on page 2,
Yes.
That's what he said. He didn't think that was proper for us to be paying people like to go to workers' comp hearings
No,
and those types of things.
no, I agree.
So, and when they are paid though, we're paying them for transport time, or is it mileage? Or is it they're actually the time that they spend to travel? Because I would,
We're paying, if they have it, the only time we're going to pay them is if it's jury duty. It says if they're summoned to jury duty, they shall receive full regular pay from the board for time spent traveling to and attending required jury duty during their normal working hours.
so then we would not pay them mileage, those type of things.
No mileage.
Is there any more discussion?
Yeah, there's no mileage in that. It would just be if they're scheduled to work, let's say 8 to 4, and they have to be, they have to be there at court at 8:30 and they leave, they would be paid for their regular time.
Makes sense.
Now, if they don't have to be there until 12, then obviously they're expected to come to work for part of that time. Yeah, that he struck all that out. On the second page under B, it says time spent at or traveling to and from an administrative hearing that occurs outside of the employee's regularly scheduled workday is not commensable. That's all. He took all that out.
Okay. Did he mention anything about paying the difference for jury duty? So if we get, I don't know what compensation is for jury duty today, but
I don't think he recommended that we let them keep their jury pay, but take away their ability to use work time for hearings and workers' comp issues or things like that they're called to, or any personal issues.
I would make a motion to accept the amendment.
I'll second.
Mr. Gore,
If it occurs on their regular work day, their jury duty or work days, how are you going to carry them on payroll?
Okay, so you're saying
So you're saying you're not going to pay them their regular rate while they're at court on jury duty?
if they're summoned to jury duty, we pay them their regular rate.
Okay, all right, I misunderstood.
Yes, we pay them. But if they're somewhere for a reason, they're that's related to them personally, they don't get paid. They have to use like their vacation time or
Okay, all right.
whatever, personal leave.
we ready for roll call?
Any other questions?
Mr. Gore,
Yes.
Mr. Huff,
Yes.
Ms. Jones,
Yes.
Mrs. Marks,
Yes.
Mrs. Piles,
Yes,
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Okay, the next policy is it's a revised policy, but I apologize. I did not put a copy of the previous version in here. The difference is we totally rewrote this calamity day policy. because with COVID and with our program changing like it has, the other policy was just no longer applicable. So what you see here is you see it on policy 1304. This policy is much broader and less specific. We don't get into school programs and the differences between 12-month employees and less than 12-month employees. We have it broken down to two types of calamities. One would be a short-term calamity and one is a long-term calamity. And the long-term calamity are like the COVID-19 shutdown, where people work from home and the buildings were closed. So this would cover us. Again, this is a policy that I got from Dave that would cover us for any type of long-term calamity where the buildings were closed, but yet we wanted to ask some people to work at home. If you go to A, the short-term calamities, these are like your traditional, it's snowing and the roads are bad or whatever. We had a water main break, but the way this wording is written, it doesn't lock me in. It gives me a lot more leeway so that I could say, for instance, we don't have any transportation, open door schools closed today, but we want teachers to report. It would give us the choice to make that kind of differentiation that we've never really been able to do before. And I'm not saying that we would do that, but I'm just saying it doesn't lock us into anything. Like, well, if there's snow and there's no bus transportation, no one at the school comes to work. Now, most of the time they're not, and they'll be paid for that most of the time, but it doesn't lock us in. So I don't know if you all had time to really read through this, but basically it says that I have, which is what the other policy said, I have the sole authority to approve an emergency closing for all or part of the board and for all or part of the workday due to inclement weather conditions or other emergencies such as a water main break, heating and air malfunction, or other calamitous situation. Then it goes in, like I said, to the long-term calamities. And that's when I am, we're shutting down, but I'm asking employees to work in another location. And it just covers us in that situation when we would have to do that. So basically this would be the policy and we would, do our own procedures. And there's really nothing, of substance different in other than it doesn't break everything down to specific situations or staff. Because it really depends on what the situation is, on whether or not we're going to close an office or a school or whatever it may be.
Does anyone have any questions?
Nope. I don't.
Is there a motion to approve the calamity days policy 1304?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Sorry. Mr. Gore,
Yes.
Mr. Huff,
Yes.
Ms. Jones,
Yes.
Ms. Marks,
Yes.
Ms. Piles,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Okay, now we have a couple of COVID policies that were put in place due to the federal American Rescue Plan, as you may remember. Seems like it was just very recent, where we were able to give employees additional sick time or family medical leave in case there were situations related to COVID. And so now that we have a new administration, as you know, the Emergency Family and Medical Leave Expansion Act was passed by the Biden administration. And that law became effective on April 1st of 2020 and is in effect until December. Wait a minute. How long is it in effect? It's effective on April 1st.
Until September.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that on here.
Yes, ma'am.
Who's that on there? Okay, it's on the other one. It's not. Through September 2021.
Yes.
So we have a choice, and this is a choice. It basically extends those benefits. So let's start with the Emergency Family and Medical Leave Expansion policy. And what we did, if you look at the shaded sections, that's what is different than the first policy. So it expands why you can use the leave, and it expands the leave itself. So this would be through September. And if you look at the bottom, reasons for requesting and taking mandated sick leave, it's A through I. And it's all regarding COVID-19, and it includes things such as obtaining an immunization, recovering from a condition, illness, or disability related to the vaccination. So, for instance, we've had people, I was one of them, who was sick after they got the vaccine and had to take a day off after. This would give you sick leave for that. And then if you look at the next policy, the emergency paid sick leave, again, it expands the benefits to September of 21. And if you look at G, H, and I, it's additional reasons that you would be able to take the sick leave. Now, Amy, if someone had already used sick leave through the previous act, would the bank start over with this if the board approved this?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
This,
And under the Medical Expansion Act, they're basically, if an employee qualifies for sick leave and they need time beyond the 10 days or the 80 hours, the employee can take 12, basically they can take 12 weeks of FMLA because they're sick with those 9 different reasons. So for practical terms, if they didn't use the first 80 hours, they can now take up, no, forgive me. They, in practical terms now, after April 1st, an employee could potentially now take up to 14 weeks if they are sick. 80 hours for being sick and 12 weeks that this new American Rescue Plan Act is giving them. So they get 80 hours of sick leave and 12 weeks of Family Medical Leave Act. Where before they had the sick leave or the family medical leave, but now it's letting them do both.
My gosh.
So would we pay for the board, would the funding be for that entire 14 weeks that would be paid leave?
No, ma'am, the funding would only be for the 80 hours,
Okay.
but they can take up to 14 weeks off.
Without pay.
It says 14 week of paid leave.
Oh,
Isn't it
I'm so sorry.
2/3 of
It is
pay?
paid. I apologize. It is 14 weeks of paid leave. Yes.
But isn't that a 2/3 of their wages?
Yes.
It's not full pay.
It's the same as it was before. The categories where they're full and part-time, how it had it broken down. And I believe that's on page 3.
And if they do take that, I think we get some type of Social Security benefit on our 941s.
There is
Well-
a credit. Go ahead, Julie.
Oh, yeah, our legal counsel for the County Boards Association is trying to get to the bottom of that. It is still, the jury is out on whether or not a political subdivision can claim that. We're just not
Oh.
sure yet. He thinks we can, but he's just not sure yet. So we would be eating the cost, probably. So it's totally up to us. We can keep what we have and we don't have to make any changes. Correct, Amy? That's my understanding.
Correct. That's
That this-
absolutely correct.
That is optional, but I will tell you, I mean, I personally, I think what we have already has covered our needs.
Yeah.
I don't really see a need for this, to be honest.
I think just given the state that we're in right now and we're seeing rates that have declined at this point, this seems excessive to me.
Yes.
It does. I agree, Sarah. Woo.
And none of this, what we're discussing right now comes out of their sick time.
Right.
Okay.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I think we would be being safe by doing this. We only have 2 employees who have exhausted their leave, who could potentially benefit from this. So yes, you could be helping employees. And by leave, I mean their COVID leave. You could be potentially helping employees, but like you said, it is declining. So it is voluntary and it's completely up to you. I have spoken with other boards just to get their opinion and to see how they were writing their policies who are not going to do it.
There were boards that didn't do it the first time. The first act they didn't do. So I think this is a little bit excessive, but I want to.
When does what we have in place, when does it expire?
It's already expired.
Okay.
It went through March. We allowed it to, Julie was very gracious to allow it to carry over till March, but it has now expired.
Can we reinstate it?
Well, that's what you would be doing by doing this.
My gosh, this just seems like so much.
And this would go from April 1st until when?
September.
Through September.
Through the end of September.
Yes, ma'am. unless there's a new law passed after that.
Table it.
Is it something that we could do in another month, or do we have to do it at this time?
I think it would be retroed when we approved it because the law went into effect in April. So I think we'd have to retro it, is my understanding. I mean, we might want to seek legal counsel on that, but I think if it's approved, it's approved. And
That would be my understanding as well.
Do we have the ability to modify what's proposed, or is it just straight from the law?
One moment and let me pull the legal guidance. It's right here beside me that was sent out. It does not require that employers provide any form of paid leave to employees. Rather, the American Rescue Plan Act offers credits in order to encourage employers to voluntarily offer paid leave of the type required under the FFCRA, and for 3 new reasons. The American Rescue Plan Act extends the tax credit for 6 months from April 1 through September 30th in an effort to encourage employers to voluntarily provide the emergency paid sick leave or paid expanded family medical leave. So it looks like you can do one or the other.
And remember, we're a political subdivision where people get generous sick leave. So, you got to think about all the employers that don't, give sick leave, that they're really, I think, more targeting with something like this. Because like I said, we're not even sure at this point if we even qualify for the tax credits.
Yeah, so this would be for somebody who's already exhausted what
Yes.
is provided before, and then
Yes.
in addition to, and I just still stand by the fact I think it's excessive.
I agree. It is excessive, man.
And we possibly will not get reimbursed for it. So it's on our tab.
That's
Well,
right.
we won't get reimbursed. The only thing we would get would be the tax credit. I don't know how much that would be.
The tax credit was pretty nice.
Was it?
In the private industry, yes, it was pretty decent.
Yeah, see, I don't
Helped cover a
know.
lot of it.
I know that Amy and I discussed this before the meeting because I read the legal opinion and she read the legal opinion. And both of us came away with our interpretation is that they just don't know yet if we are going to be eligible for the tax credit as a political subdivision, a public employer where people earn sick time. There's just no definitive answer out there on whether public bodies will be eligible for the tax credit. So,
And there are employers out there who don't offer a lot of time off, paid time off from work.
Right. Some people only get 3 days a year.
Or a couple, something of that nature. So,
and I really think that that's kind of the target, because these private businesses are obviously eligible for the tax credit. But I guess it's for people who maybe get COVID multiple times or they have a family member that gets it. They had it, they exhausted all their time. Then they have, let's say, a child that gets it. I know it can happen, but I mean, we did approve it the first time. We didn't have to, we did.
Yeah, and I agree with that completely because at the timing, obviously, that came into effect, we were in that surge period with.
Yes.
And so it was just very much a necessity. And I think something should have been provided to the employees.
Yes.
Okay. is there a motion to table this then?
Well, we can either table it, or you can just vote to not approve them.
Okay, is there a vote to disapprove?
Not approve it?
We'll have to write up, the board made a motion to decline to offer the expanded FMLA and sick leave benefits in accordance with the Emergency Family and Medical Leave Expansion Act.
I'll make a motion for that.
I'll second it.
Hold on. I'm
Yeah, we
finishing
have
writing
to
this.
let Lisa catch up to us.
Okay, I'm there. Okay, sorry. Who made the motions? I didn't get that.
I did. I motioned and Debbie was second.
Okay, Mr. Gore,
Yes.
Mr. Huff, Ms.
Tanner?
Jones,
I say yes. I think he's out.
Ms. Marks,
Yes.
Ms. Piles,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Oh. All right, bye-bye.
Okay. You ready for the next one?
Yes, is that public funds?
Yes. So I have a couple of new policies that was brought to our attention we need. And Steve, this will be right up your alley. For purposes of the IRS, we have to have policies that outline why we would have expenditures for public purposes, and why we would and how we handle recognition of service and retirement. So we got a lot of different we were informed by the auditor's office we have to have this. So like if we have some kind of staff recognition event and we provide a meal or something, there has to be a policy that guides that. It can't just be us doing it. So this is the first time I'd ever heard of this. So Amy got several different policies from different county boards. I read over some of the actual tax law about it. And I felt this policy, was pretty to the point, pretty clear. So all of these things that I have included in here are allowable expenditures. And the de minimis, how you say that, Steve? De minimis.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Fringe benefits are basically fringe benefits that are so low in worth that the IRS does not expect us to report them. And so this is things like snacks or refreshments. If we buy coffee, for meetings, or we buy, water, there's certain things in the law that you're allowed to expend public funds for, which, like I said, includes coffee, snacks, refreshments, and other amenities, that are part of the common courtesy. If we're having an in-service day, I have here that, we're going to provide a meal to the attendees to facilitate their attendance, because it's more cost effective to have refreshments available in the same place rather than people leaving and then having to come back. And then I have, if we have a board meeting, you know, that's going to occur over a regular meal time or some kind of training, or if the training's over 3 hours, we can offer meals. You know, we used to do that for our board meetings. I just didn't know we needed a policy, but we need a policy. So, and then I have here, you know, alcoholic beverages will never be purchased with public funds or served in our facility or any LCD sponsored event. I have the ORC reference down here. And like I said, I actually read it, and all these things are allowable. You just have to give a rationale, you know, for why you're providing these things. But, you know, as a public courtesy, I think it says public purpose is to provide common hospitality and refreshments, which would be, like I said, water, coffee,
Right.
things like that. But you have to be that detailed. And like I said, I didn't know that.
Documentation.
Yes. So that is the purpose of the public, what is called expenditures for public purpose. And if we have this, and I think this will satisfy the auditor's office. Because like I said, this is a common policy, and different boards have different policies, but I thought this one was pretty straightforward. And that way, when we have an expenditure for in-service meals, or when we have expenditures, you know, for someone to provide dinner for a board meeting or coffee or water, it's covered. So that's all this is.
Okay, a motion to approve the expenditure of public funds policy.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Mr. Gore,
Yes.
Mr. Huff, Ms. Jones,
Yes.
Ms. Marks,
Yes.
Ms. Piles,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Okay, the next policy again was one that was brought to my attention that we need. And anytime we recognize people for retirement, we really need a policy that states what we're going to be expending and why we're doing it. And so this is a policy that outlines how we handle retirements and recognition of service. So basically all we do right now is we do recognize staff annually at 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30 years of service. We give them a service pin and a meal. So I put in here that as part of the employee recognition event, a meal will be provided to all attendees, which would mean including guests, because we do allow people, you know, to bring a guest if they're being recognized. And then, so that's staff recognition. And then as far as retirement goes, there's a proclamation from the LDD board. And then I put the LCD will contribute money towards the purchase of a commemorative gift for the staff member or a plaque. I'm thinking like a plaque or something. When they retire, not to exceed $40. So some boards had like hundreds of dollars. Like, wow. But I just put 40 to cover like a cake, because sometimes when someone retires, we'll buy them a cake. And that would give us some extra money to maybe buy them flowers or a plaque or something. So I just picked the $40. I can lower that if you would like for me to 25. If you guys are okay, because we don't have that many people, you know, that actually retire. So I thought 40 was okay. Some boards spelled out like it depended on how long of service they have with the board. So if they retire, but they only work for the board 10 years, they got a $25 gift. If they worked here 20 years, they got a $40, and so on. It just kept going up. If you guys want me to break it down that way, I'm more than happy to. I just thought it was simpler. If they retire, they're retired.
Yes. No.
That's simple. I agree.
I agree too.
Okay, because they're, you only retire. I mean, it's not like they've retired from all these places, so.
We don't need to give them a gift to the Bahamas, Julie.
Right. So I just put, if they retire, it won't exceed, $40, but we have to have something.
Yes.
We have to have something in place, because really, like, all these years that we've been buying cakes and all that stuff, like, I didn't have anything in policy for that. I had never been told we needed, in all my years, I did not know somehow that I was never called on that. So, but I guess there was some kind of audit or something, and it was determined we can't make those kind of expenditures without policies.
Oh. Gosh.
So I will need, if you all are okay with this one.
Yep.
We need a motion to approve policy 217, recognition of service and retirement.
Who do that, Sarah?
Yep, I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Gore,
Yes.
Mr. Huff, Ms. Jones,
Yes.
Ms. Marks,
Yes.
Ms. Piles,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Where's Steve?
Steve texted us and said, I thought he texted Lou and Julie, said he had to leave at 7:15.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it is.
Back to the office for 3 clients or 3 appointments.
So we needed to mark that Lisa, that he had to
Yes.
leave.
Uh-huh.
So we'll just move on.
Okay.
Okay. Approval of direct service contracts.
Yeah, these were already reviewed with the Ethics Council, and as reported by Mrs. Marks, they're both recommended for approval by the full board. I've already went through all the details with the Ethics Council, but I'm more than happy to do it again.
Are we going to, do you want me to do these both at the same time?
We can do them at the same time, but I would state their names.
Names separately and have a second, a motion and a second on both of them. On each.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
But these are ongoing. We've had these people doing it for several years for our early intervention. And there's no conflict or, conflict of interest. And they save us a lot of money by doing this for us.
Does anyone have any questions?
No.
Can I have a motion to approve the Elite Rehabilitation and Fitness LLC contract?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it. And I need a motion for Joe Ellen Mays for SLP starting 7/1/21 to 6/30/22. It was the same dates for the other one too.
I'll make a motion.
And I'll second that one.
Mr. Gore,
Yes.
Mr. Huff, Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Ms. Marks,
Yes.
Ms. Piles,
Yes.
Okay.
Table of organization.
Yep. I know I bring this to you all a lot, but let me explain what happened here. As Dave and I were looking at all of our positions to get them correct on the collective bargaining agreement, I don't want to include the lead DS as a bargaining position, because with the number of referrals that are coming in, Jamie and I feel like, you know, at some point, if we do have to expand or we can get funding to expand, we're probably going to need, that will probably need to be a contract position, a management position. So I would rather just abolish that. There's a lot of history with this. It was never filled. And so I don't see any need to even have it on here. So it was never filled. After we discussed it, there was never any intention to move forward with it. I had just not removed it. But when we were as he was working on the draft for the labor agreement, he said, well, if it's on the TO, I have to include it. And so I'd rather not do that. I'd rather just go ahead and abolish it, because it was never filled. And I don't think we're going to need it.
And which one is it?
It's the lead DS, the lead developmental specialist. If you remember, before Jamie took over EI,
Yes.
I was going to have this kind of hybrid position, and it didn't work out. So we just kind of tabled it, and Jamie took over. But now that she's doing it, there's really no need to have that position at this time, or even in the future, because if we do decide to make a move and expand, it will probably be with a contract, not a bargaining position.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the revised table of organization?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Gore,
Yes.
Mr. Huff, Ms. Jones,
Yes.
Ms. Marks,
Yes.
Ms. Piles.
Yes.
Okay. Before we go into executive session, are there any announcements? I guess I can do that afterwards because, well, Jamie, you will be leaving, won't you?
Yeah, everyone will be leaving except the board members. And
okay, well, our next board meeting is June the 8th, 2021 at 6 p.m. by Zoom. Bye, Kendra. Bye, Jen.
Bye.
It was good to see both of you.
Bye. Have a good evening.
You
You all
too.
too.
Kendra.
okay, so we need a motion to go into executive. Dave's joining.
Amy, are you staying?
Yes.
Is Amy staying? Okay.
Yes. Hi,
Okay.
Dave. We're getting ready to go into executive session, so they have.
All right. Hello.
Hey,
Hello.
Is there a motion to go into executive session per ORC 5123G for preparing for negotiations and bargaining with public employees?
Make the motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Gore,
Yes.
Mr. Huff, Ms. Jones,
Yes.
Ms. Marks,
Yes.
Ms. Piles.
Yes.
Great in the breakout room.
Oh, not the breakout room.
See y'all.
Well, I'll see you if I make it.
Can we text her?
It looks like she's there.
No.
Lisa, you're not muted.
Hey, Larry.
I'm still here. Debbie hasn't left the room yet.
She hasn't left. Debbie hasn't left the building.
She hasn't left the building. She's stuck in the ozone or wherever. She's black
She's
hole.
still with Elvis.
She's locked in the cloud. Whatever that is.
Yeah.
She's stuck in that little escape room that they have.
There she's come back.
We forgot to do a motion.
I'll make the motion.
You have to come out of it. When Debbie gets back, we'll need to do a motion to come out of executive session.
I don't know why her video's not showing.
She's calling me.
You have to adjust the pattern buffer,
Hi,
Larry. The
Debbie.
transporter's not working.
I mean, I've been sitting here waiting. And
Yeah.
I don't see anybody.
Okay. So
So
we
I
need a motion.
to come out of executive session.
Yes.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second that.
Was it Lou and Sarah?
It was Sarah
Yes.
and Lou.
Sarah and
7:54. Okay.
Can we
Mr.
do Mr. Gore? Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Huff?
Yes.
Miss Jones?
Yes.
Miss Marks?
Yes.
Miss Piles?
Yes.
All right. So are there any announcements or?
I have no announcements. Do you have any?
No. Other than our next meeting will be on Zoom.
June the 8th,
June the 8th.
Julie.
6 p.m., right?
Yes. Yes, Tanner.
Oh,
Good.
I was
There I
just gonna let you know that I talked to the mayor
Uh-huh.
between last month and this month.
Yes.
And he told me and Lauren that they were doing the roundabout that you may be aware of, like on Park Avenue.
Okay.
And they have plans on putting sidewalks in, but they at the time weren't able to give any like plans for where, like the exact locations, so we could see them in like where they would be going in at.
Right.
But what I was wanting to see if you thought we could do between the state like putting that in and now is, do you want me to, do you think it'd be a good idea to see if we could do like a temporary path? Because he didn't exactly say when it was going to be done.
Okay.
And with that being the only, because I've heard that Bartram's is going out.
I heard that too.
That's going to be the only like grocery store.
Yeah.
Other than Save-A-Lot.
Yeah, they're combining Pick and Save and Bartram's into an IGA or something.
I think it's food fair.
Food fair, you're right. Yeah, food fair.
Yeah. But now that's making me wonder do you think Save a Lot would go out where where food fair's going in? Or do you think Save a Lot would be big enough to like?
I haven't heard anything about Save a Lot,
Okay.
but I know that Bartram's is moving to the Pick and Save store, and Pick and Save is going to become food. It's all going to become food fair.
Yeah. But do you want me to ask Mayor Cramblett if he would want to think about a temporary path until that is finished?
Yeah, we can. How about I give you a call tomorrow and we can discuss a plan moving forward.
Okay.
I'll give you a call.
Okay. And do you want me to send you the videos and pictures of where it is?
Yes.
Or would you still want to meet?
No, I want to meet.
Sorry.
I'd kind of like to meet Tanner, and so I can get my head around exactly what you're talking about, and then maybe we can talk to the mayor together.
Okay.
Because it is going to be difficult. I know, like on Facebook and so forth, there's a lot of citizens that's concerned because they're not going to have access. People that can't drive were complaining because they're not going to have access to Bartram's anymore. So, there's a lot of different people that are concerned about this.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it and strategize a plan, and then we'll move forward from there. But I'll give you a call tomorrow.
Okay. I was just also gonna mention that Tim Nunnery had got in touch with me today.
Yes.
And he did photos, and was the reason he was doing the interview next week because of being busy the rest of the week?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
About that.
Because it was at about 1 that he did the pictures, but I wasn't sure like how long the interview was going to be.
Maybe we can find Lisa. Maybe we can find out tomorrow from Tim on that.
I will. I know he had to go back to work, so I'll get some information and get with Tanner.
Okay.
Yeah, he was a witness today in court, and so he had a really long day.
Yeah.
So he was.
Was it a witness for that like court hearing that you had told us about?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Either last month or in March.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Is there anything else?
I don't think so right now.
Okay. Well, I appreciate everyone. I know it's been a 2-hour longer than 2-hour meeting for some. Hopefully next month won't be this long. I really appreciate you all hanging with me, but we just had a lot to get through.
But we got a lot accomplished.
We did. So there's just a lot that we're working on right now. So I appreciate your time.
Yes.
I really do.
Thank you, Julie. We appreciate you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Julie, also.
Okay. Well, I'll talk to you tomorrow, Tanner.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
I'll see you all later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
See
did
ya.
we do a motion to adjourn?
No.
No.
I
make a
motion.
Tanner motion.
Animation.
And Lou seconds it,
I'll
doesn't
second.
it?
All right. We're adjourned.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.